Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Here's a watch that I've had in my collection for about, coming up on about 25 years now, I think. This, you can see Twincept, Databank Casio Twincept World Time Watch. This is actually the ABX-53 watch using module 1326. And here you can see it just looks like a kind of a sleeper, just your standard little analog watch. But look what happens when I press this button down here. All of a sudden, oh, it's got an LCD overlay, okay, giving me the day of the week and the date. But also press that button again, and it also can give me, the current time in that overlay as well, or just, back to kind of a standard analog watch. With this lighting, the hands look really, really dark. They're actually kind of more of a glossy dark. So anyway, a very classy looking watch. Let me go through some of the features on this. So I'm going to reactivate. Most of the time I like to use it with this active, so you can see, the date there. And I don't necessarily wear it this way where you have that redundancy of the analog and digital time together. But when you do have it this way, at least you get the seconds readout, because there is no second hand on the analog part of this. So let's just, if I hold down the adjust button, you can see what happens when you go to set the time here. Okay, so right now it's pretty standard as far as digital watches go to set the seconds, hours, minutes, and whether it's a 12-hour or 24-hour display. You can change that right there. Then the date, right now the year 2021, and then the month and the day of the month. So those are all the things you can adjust in this setup mode. Now this is a little bit older watch, so it's pre-programmed to show you the correct day of the week for the years from 1995 through 2039. So I can go forward here or backward. If I take this all the way back, let's just go back and I'll prove to you that the limit is 1995. And if I continue to try to go backwards, then we're back to 2039. So I'll take it back to the correct year right now, which is 2021. And one thing I've discovered with watches like this, where it's got that pre-programmed calendar, if it gets to the end of the range, which in this case would be 2039, if you get to the year 2040 and you want to continue to use this watch, there's a very easy fix. What you do is you just set the date to 28 years previous, and if you do that, then all the days of the week will line up correctly when you set the month and the day of the month correctly. So anyway, that's your basic setup there in the regular timekeeping mode. If I change modes now, this is where you get the data bank feature. So let me just show you here. So you get up to 50 screens here where you can save some data. And in this case, it's alphabet here and numbers here. So, this is coming from a time back when we didn't have cell phones in our pockets as much as we do today. We didn't have our, smart devices to keep track of all this. So basically, this is supposed to help you remember names and phone numbers, and you would have them in this little, database on your watch, and you can have 50 separate entries for a name and phone number. So if I want to change something here, I just hold down the adjust button, and see then the first letter starts to blink. And I can go forward or backward here using these buttons on the right side. So I can scroll ahead quickly if I hold it down, go through the entire alphabet, and also, okay, you do get numbers and some symbols in this as well. And then you're back to the letter A. So you can scroll ahead and do the same thing to the next letter, etc., until you run out of available spaces for letters. And then you get over here to the next, and it's just numbers. Let me scroll ahead to maybe this one so you can see better. So then, you get the numbers, 0 through 9. And you could put a dash there or a blank space. And so you can, go through and fill out the rest of these, leaving, blanks or dashes or numbers all the way through to the end here. And once you've got your entry set, press adjust to make things stop flashing. And you see it just blinked up. It said that it was going to sort this. So if I were to create a new entry for this, I'll go here forward, and there's a blank one. Now if I hit adjust, okay, then I can spell something out, like I can spell G-O. Let's do this. And I'll pretend that's what I want to enter here. I'll hit adjust to make things stop blinking, and it just sorted that for me. So now I have two entries. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's going to keep prompting me. It's going to keep prompting me to keep entering things, but I'm going to hit adjust and make that stop. Okay. Now I go through, and here's, it has sorted my entries. Here's the first one that was just kind of, there. And then there's good time, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's, it's waiting for me to enter another one up to 50 in total. So those are my entries, and that's how I set those up. Let's go to the next mode. And, since I did things in that mode, it just took me back to the normal timekeeping. So I have to go past this mode to the next one, and that's my world time mode. So this is kind of fun. I can go in here and I can change this, and look at how the LCD overlay gave me a map of the world up there, and it's flashing the time zone that corresponds with the selection here. So GMT, or I could use this button as though I'm scrolling eastward on the map, and you can see now we're in the Paris time zone, Cairo, and we just kind of go around and see the time in all these other cities around the world. So let's just say I wanted it to be Wellington for my time there, and I'm all set. But if I wanted to, I can hold this adjust button down, and I can set daylight saving time to be on or off in Wellington, which I believe they are on daylight saving right now down there in New Zealand. So that's where I make that adjustment, and there I'm set. But I can also go in here and adjust this. If I wanted to, I could change the hour completely, and I could also change the minutes completely if I wanted to, not have that perfectly synchronized with my local time. So that gives me that option. So that is customizable in that way. Now, if I press mode again, it's going to take me back here, and now we see the minutes are not in line with my world time setting there. So, that one of these is not going to be correct if I do that. So I might want to go ahead and change that back to what is the real time. But again, I have that option to make it kind of out of sync if I wanted to. But my next mode is the alarm mode. And this is pretty standard as far as digital watches go. The alarm, if I press adjust, things start to blink. Now I'm able to change the hour for my daily alarm and change the minutes for my daily alarm. And of course, when I make changes to the daily alarm, it automatically turns on the alarm. That's what that symbol right there means. The alarm is ready to go. But if I want to turn it off, I use this forward button down here to select. So right there, it's showing me that the hourly signal is activated, but the alarm is not. Here they are both activated. I'm going to get the alarm every day and the hourly signal. Here, neither one of them is activated. And again, I can take it back to, usually I prefer at least to have the chime on. Okay, so then it takes me back to the beginning there, and it leaves the hourly signal bell there to show me that that is active. And here again, from the normal timekeeping mode, I can go back to no LCD overlay, or minimal with the date and now the hourly chime symbol showing that that's going to happen, and the full display of the date and the time locally. Now I can change modes again and go here to the last mode, stopwatch mode. Okay, so stopwatch is hours, minutes, and seconds, and hundredths of a second. So pretty standard as far as stopwatches go. I can start and stop it using this button down here, do split time with this button up here on this side. And if I stop the stopwatch and press this button, I get a full reset and I can start over again. This stopwatch will go for 24 hours. And if you don't stop it, it will reset to 0 and keep on going. So that's what that stopwatch does. Actually, there's just officially one more mode if I continue past the stopwatch. And this is the mode for setting. See, it says set right there. It's for setting the analog hands. So if you need to do this, and typically you would only need to do this when you're, well, when it's daylight saving time changes or when you first put a new battery in it. So in order to change the position of the analog hands, you have to adjust that manually. I know with some of my other newer watches, if I change the, like my G-Shock watches, if I manually set the time, the hands will fall in line automatically. But with this, you have to separately set the hands. So the way that works is in this mode, I hold down adjust until that word set starts to blink. And now for every time I push this forward button, the minute hand is going to go forward 1/3 of a minute. So I just do that and I'm off to the races. Now there's no reverse on this. It only goes in one direction. So for example, when I'm making an adjustment to daylight saving time, I can hold this down and it will keep going a little bit faster. And I only have to go around, 1 hour's worth in order to get to the right time. But if it happens to be, getting out of daylight saving time, I have to hold this down until it goes around all the way 11 hours worth in order for it to get to the right time. And the other tricky thing about this, unfortunately, is that if you go too far, let's say I wanted to set this to, say, 5:06, instead of 14:06. Let's just say 5:06 was my time. And, and then since it goes every 20 seconds, it advances. So I need to go ahead 2 more times. And now it's perfectly aligned as far as minutes and seconds here. And this minute hand is lined up. But what if I accidentally went too far? Oh, too far. Well, now, unfortunately, I can't go back a couple of steps there. I'm going to have to just keep going around and around and around until I get there and hope I don't go too far again. So that's the only thing that's a little bit of a hassle with this watch, is setting up the hands manually. And, depending on your camera angle there, does that minute hand look like it's exactly up on the 12? I don't know, because since that just passed 20, it ticked ahead another 1/3 of a minute all by itself there. So I don't know. One trick I do, let me just show you. I'm going to set the time correctly now just to show you what this does. Okay, it turns out that at this moment, this watch is synchronized with my atomic clock receivers, so this is showing exactly the right time. But over the course of a few weeks, this tends to gain time, so it'll be ahead by a few seconds every month. What if it's ahead by more than 20 seconds and I want to back it up? Well, of course, as with most of these watches, all I would have to do is go back to my normal timekeeping mode, hold down the adjust button, and at any point when it actually reaches, the right time, when the real time seconds are 0, I just push this button and it resets to 0. But unfortunately, that does not automatically reset the analog hands. So if the analog hands are too fast, I got to keep that in mind as I'm trying to back this up to the right time. So right now, okay, it's 2:10 and the analog hands are right on, okay? And so I can go ahead and reset this right now and the analog hands stayed right where they were. But what if I waited until this got past the 20-second mark when I decided to reset the seconds? Well, what happens at 20 seconds is this analog hand is going to go ahead 1/3 of a minute, and you'll see what that looks like right about now. Okay, it went ahead 1/3 of a minute. Now, if I were to reset this, okay, seconds are correct now, back to 0, but the analog hand is still ahead just 1 tick. And the only way to fix that is to go all the way around 12 hours minus 1/3 of a minute in order to fix that. So, that could be a hassle, but if that's important to you, that's something to keep in mind as you're trying to keep your analog hands perfectly in sync with the digital clock inside this watch. This watch is fairly lightweight. It's got a nice metal bracelet here, and I kind of like here where this is adjustable. What you do is you kind of, well, I may need a little tool to help me with this. To release this, I go in here and I just kind of pry this up. It's a little bit stiff sometimes. And so that releases this part of the clasp so that I can go back and forth along the watch bracelet here. You can get that to the exact size that you need, and then you just fold that back over, and lock it again, and that can be a little bit tight. And then you see this part of the clasp just hooks around. There's kind of a rod right there, hooks around that, and then snaps into place. And this is getting to be kind of near the end of the limit for my my normal size wrist. I think my wrist is normal size, about 7.5 inches. So the proper setting for me is just a little bit tighter than this. But if I had to make this watch bracelet a little bit looser than it is right now, I might not be able to do that very much. So anyone with an especially large wrist, this bracelet might not work out the best for you. Otherwise, for most people, I think it will. And again, I love that you don't need any special tools, really. I used a little screwdriver to help me pry that buckle up a little bit. But yeah, not too bad. You see right there, it's a little bit loose still on me. I could tighten it some, but I can't get much looser than this. And anyway, I've had this watch since, probably since it was basically first on the market, somewhere around 1995, 1996, give or take a year there. So yeah, it's held up pretty well over the years. I used to have a few scratches on it, but thanks to Polywatch, I was able to polish those out, and it turned out really well. So that still looks like a really good crystal. I don't really have a lot of other scratches or damage anywhere else on the watch. This is kind of just that stamped metal back, and it looks like there's a sticker on there that I never peeled off, but just a clear piece of plastic there. Looks like the rest of the case is probably painted. It looks kind of like metal, but there's an awful lot of plastic on that. But the bracelet itself is mostly metal. And so I think it's held up really well. I don't know, if you're looking for these used on eBay or something, I don't know how hard they are to find, but it does have that unique analog digital display with the LCD layer that just sits up there and sometimes is invisible on the display, and that's pretty cool. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I do have another couple of vintage watches that I want to review soon, so I hope you will join me for those reviews on an upcoming new episode of The Good Timekeeping Show.